guide. We will be recording this meeting, so if there's anything you'd like to access later, feel free to look back at this video. So as you probably noticed, we have a different link account to open up our virtual meetings, and we'll be doing that moving forward. So just keep an eye out for that. We might need to change the password because we set one, but it seems like it didn't appear for some of our participants today, and that's okay. So just look out for more information moving forward about that. And so the objective of today is going over some engage virtually with your clubs, but also with people in general, so your friends or family who might not be right next to you, but you on a regular basis, you interact with them. And so the format of this meeting will be very similar to the format of other meetings we've done, but also we encourage you to take note because when you hold your own virtual meetings, you'll be doing it in the same format. And so there will be a few aspects that I'll highlight that you can do in your own meetings. So just per usual, our virtual meeting etiquette. So sign in with the link. LB, if you could drop that in the chat. Yes, LB dropped in the chat. That's awesome. And so our meeting's being recorded. When you're not speaking, please mute yourself. Mute your cell phones. If you hide the video panel, you can see the PowerPoint more clearly. If you're having any issues with the sound, there's our little link for troubleshooting. And then at any point, feel free to share any questions or comments in the chat box. And yes, sponsors can sign in too. So everyone on this meeting can sign in. And so did everyone see the poll that came up at the beginning of the meeting that asked you 2 questions? If so, maybe raise your hand. Awesome. Okay, yeah, so Laura Beth, do you want to briefly say what we found from that?
Yeah, I'm gonna share the results so you guys can see. So it looks like the number one thing that most of you think is important is connecting virtually, and I think that's great. And we have a couple new activities you can try and some key elements to incorporate into your meetings to hopefully reach this goal. And then how many meetings would you like your club to hold? And it looks like 1 to 2, and then one club says 3 to 5, and one club says 6, and that's great. So we hope this virtual engagement guide that we put together will help you brainstorm some potential activities you can do. And we also develop, an activity specific for if you're only going to have 1 to 2 meetings for the rest of the school year. What do you think is most important? And what it seems like you guys communicated is that connecting with your peers and touching base before summer's here and everyone really wants to check out and re-energize. So we hope you find the tools and resources that we'll go over today and then send out after this meeting. Find it really helpful for your club.
Thank you, LV. So moving on. So let's just do some brief introductions. I will go first. So we're gonna share our names, our pronouns, what school we go to, and our favorite part about Our Minds Matter. And again, we want to create a safe space and put our pronouns out into the open so that we can correctly address one another. So I will go first. My name is Catherine. I go by she, her. I go to the School of Our Minds Matter, and my favorite part about Our Minds Matter is that it's really student-led and driven by you all students rather than adults. And so I think that's my favorite part. So if someone would like to take over and introduce themselves.
Hey everyone, I'm Emerson. I use they, them pronouns. I go to George Mason and I'm a student intern for OMM this semester. And my favorite part about it is, like Catherine, I really appreciate that it's a student-led club system where students can reach out to their peers and they can come up with their own activities. And I think that's a really powerful part of empowering young people to, reach out to one another and change the world.
Hi everyone, my name is
Emerson.
Khaida. I go by she. Wait, was there something? Okay, my name is Khaida. I go by she, hers. I'm from Edison High School, and the favorite part about Our Minds Matter for me is, creating the friendships and meeting new people across the county.
Hi, my name is Zori.
Thank you for sharing.
My pronouns are she, her. I go to Patriot High School, and I would say that my favorite thing about Our Minds Matter would be the discussions that it generates. I've just throughout the past year with the club, I've seen students talk about resource awareness and self-care in ways that they might not have otherwise. So that's been really exciting to help develop.
Hi, my name is Jada. I go by she, her, hers, and I go to Woodson High School. My favorite part of OMM is definitely the amount of social connectedness that it has, and I really like staying connected with everybody.
Hi, my name is Anjase, and my pronouns are she, hers. I go to Edison High School, and my favorite part about OMM is the community. I think that the students are really nice here and welcoming, and I also like the mindfulness practices that we do on Wellness Wednesdays.
Thank you, Anjase.
Thank you. What about our sponsors?
I'll go.
Hi.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Hi, I'm Jean McCormack. I am a club sponsor at Prince George High School, and I go by she, her. And my favorite part about Our Minds Matters is the hearing the conversations that start by our students about mental health, because they're not given a lot of opportunity to talk about mental health throughout their school day, and I love that they are having these conversations.
And I am Olivia Terpstra. I'm a club sponsor at Edison High School. My pronouns are she, her, and I would say my favorite part of Our Minds Matter and Edison Minds Matter, in addition to the awesome leadership team we have and the incredible interactiveness of that, would be just the student-led aspect of it and the open-mindedness and inclusivity of this club at our school.
Thank you. And my name is Laura Beth. I go by she, her pronouns, and my favorite part about Our Minds Matter is obviously that it's student-led, and to getting to work with some amazing school psychologists and counselors and social workers that I hear from them that this is their favorite part of their job. A lot of times it's responding to students in crisis and really working on a promotive track of increasing student well-being. So it's an honor to work with so many great students and sponsors.
Awesome. Let's see. So we have pulled a bunch of resources together and created what we call the virtual engagement guide. And so on the left, you can see here is a table of contents. So we have pretty much everything that we thought you all would need to know to lead your own meetings on a virtual platform, how to make a virtual space through a computer screen more personal, templates for the virtual meeting, recap, email that you would send at the end. So when we finish our meetings, we email all the participants and send all the resources, the slides we use, and any other follow-up or announcements. We also have virtual activities from our handbook that have been modified a little bit and put into a guide, as well as 3 new virtual activities, and we'll go through those. And then at the bottom, we include the club office hours, which was last week, this week, today, and then next Monday, and our Wellness Wednesdays. So first of all, with hosting virtual meetings, we want to ensure that you all are meeting with your club leaders and sponsors to determine the number of meetings and the frequencies. If these are going to be meetings with a large group of people, with students who are in your club, we want to make sure that an adult is on board, especially for more challenging topics. And so this would also require some time to meet beforehand, before the meeting, so that leaders can discuss the content with their sponsor. We would encourage you to send out a poll to the members of the club who'd be attending the meeting, maybe even if there's a larger platform for the school, so that times can be decided on. Meeting topics, especially if there's going to be 1 or 2 meetings, maybe ask, what would you all like to be talking about during our next meeting? What is an activity you would like to go over, so that the goal can be accomplished rather than having just one person decide on what that would be. Also, feel free to put out some marketing materials using Canva, which is a free platform. And like you see on our Instagram post to promote our Wellness Wednesdays, you can put the date, get a little creative, the link to the meeting. Preparing for the meeting itself, we will be providing a PowerPoint template of a sample virtual meeting. And so that would have all the slides from the beginning, the introductions, maybe the icebreaker, the opening ritual, the meeting itself, the content part, and then the closing ritual, and at the end, either announcements to include the resources and other parts where you can promote your own social media for your club. You can use these to advertise and invite your peers to attend the meetings. So you could send out meeting information to the club roster. And if you've been using the Our Minds Matter sign-in portal, you will receive a Google Doc that will have the list of all the names of the participants and their email address. So that's a great way to send out further emails to your club. So use those social media platforms, either that your school may have or that your club may have, to send out information about these virtual meetings. And maybe reach out to peers or friends who've never attended a meeting before, but now it's online, and hopefully everyone has access to a computer so that they could just hop in whenever the meeting is and see what it's like. And then during the meeting, we have been using PowerPoints on Google Slides, but you have the option to also use a Google Doc and have that as more of a discussion based. And that way you can post questions and have students have access to that so they can ask their own questions or put their comments in. And we encourage you to directly follow along with the activity through the activity tab on the Our Minds Matter website for the handbook activities that were created and modified to be virtual. so that other students can follow along with exactly the materials and the other content that coordinates to each activity. So before I go to the next part, is there any questions that anyone has about the format of meetings or how to set one up?
I think I wanted to chime in and just say that for the PowerPoint template, you don't have to follow that exactly or do anything exactly as it's laid out here. The purpose of all of these materials and resources is to really give you a framework to feel like you can hold a successful and meaningful meeting. And so I know, like the last slide, you could tell that some things are linked in, and that's what will be included in the recap email following this meeting. So you'll have direct access to those links. And then, for example, you can make a copy of a PowerPoint template and then customize it to be your own school color, logo, and things like that.
Great, thank you, LB. So making virtual spaces more personal. TED Interview had a podcast with Priya Parker, and it was titled How to Create Meaningful Connection While Apart. And so we encourage you to go listen to this, but we have drawn the essential from this podcast. And so it was all about how to make virtual spaces be able to foster more genuine human interaction. And so Parker says that what constitutes meaning is specificity and structure. Sometimes our virtual meetings have become kind of vague and diluted, and even though we say we're meeting for work, we're meeting for a club, it's not specific enough, and it might just be staying in touch. But we have tried to become more intentional with our Wellness Wednesday meetings. We like to explicitly state the purpose of our meetings, and we encourage you to do so as well. And so even though sometimes it may seem obvious, it's just a simple thing to do to explicitly state the purpose of a virtual meeting. And how do we know what the purpose is? Well, one could go and ask themselves questions, or the group, why are we having this gathering? How can we cater to the needs of the group? What is the larger purpose than just simply gathering for the sake of gathering? And so often people with a common set of beliefs have ritualistic practices that they do together, either religion or people who identify from the same group. But these practices can also be done if a group is intentional with their virtual meetings. And so having things such as an opening activity and a closing ritual can help establish structure in the meetings and a routine. And it's something that someone who is part of that virtual meeting can look forward to. Also important to establish ground rules. So I guess we have shared our virtual etiquette ground rules, but also in your club in particular, or if you're meeting with your friends or your family, maybe set ground rules on how long we would be talking, how we want to go about sharing our input into the group. Sometimes it can get a little awkward because we don't know who is going to talk first and we accidentally talk over each other. And as the in the participant box, you pull it up, there's a little feature and you can raise your hand. And so sometimes just little things like that can make it an easier transition. Also giving the gathering a name. So calling it the, the Saturday afternoon tea for whoever, and making that a more special, intentional place. And also sharing how we gather with other people. She said the way we gather is contagious and what we decide to gather around. So maybe if you have some ideas about how to gather differently with your friends, new activities to do virtually, then share that with others and ask others what they're doing as well. So actually one of our new activities is how to connect during COVID. And so this has a bunch of suggested activities that you could do with your friends or your family, even though we are apart. Any questions or comments on how to make virtual spaces a little more personal? Okay, awesome. So we include this here. This is the recap email template. So this is what will be sent out after your meetings. So pretty much just going through, we have a tiny blurb about what we talked about during the meeting. Having the meeting video, so if you decide to record the meeting, which we are doing now, then you could send out the recording of the meeting slides, any announcements, maybe a virtual challenge. Also have a little tab for a little section for mental health support, so either the club sponsor email or providing some of these resources. That would be a great way to follow up and then prepare your meeting participants for the following meeting. So for our virtual activities, we have 9 activities from the 2019-2020 Our Minds Matter handbook that are modified to be virtual. So after this meeting, we will send out our virtual engagement guide. And once you scroll down to the virtual activities, on the left-hand column, it will name the activity and there'll be a link to our website where all the activity resources and supplies and materials are. And then there will be another link in the far right column, and that will show a Google Doc with modifications that can be done. So maybe towards the end, Laura Beth, do we want to show that or do it now?
We can just hold off for now, and then if anyone wants us to pull up the guide so we can scroll through it and see if you guys have any questions, then we can do that. For now, I think we can hold off.
Okay. And yes, I will send out the TED Talk in the recap email. I'll be sure to note that. So let's see. So we're going to go ahead and share some media resources that are ideas of things that during this time you could peruse on our resource page. And so I want to check, is there any questions from any of the content we had before that is maybe unclear?
And so if you feel like you would like to see the virtual engagement guide and have us scroll through it, let us know. Or if you have any other general questions, now would be a great time. You guys are so quiet today. Is it because it's Monday? Okay.
Maybe. Or I just did a great job at explaining everything.
Yes,
You
obviously.
did a really good job
Well,
explaining,
I guess
but I think it's also the weather.
Oh, yeah. Everyone is ready to be outside, or is it raining there? Where'd you go? Alrighty, well, we can go ahead and share some of the resource updates that have been made to the website. And I think the purpose of putting all of these materials together is because you could potentially use some of these resources as like inspiration for what you could do at a club meeting or game night. So you can take over.
Yeah, so so first we're going to start off with apps. So on the left, the first one, this is a friend ask. And it helps provide information, tools, and resources to a friend or maybe to yourself when struggling with something. So feel free to check that out. Not Okay is another one. It gives you the ability to get immediate support from friends, family, or your peer support network, which is pretty cool. The Headspace app, which is my personal favorite, I've used it before. It's a meditation guide, and you can choose how long you want to be meditating for. So it could be 2 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes. And I find that the guy who does it is actually a monk, and I just find his voice very soothing. And then Happify. This is a cutting-edge science-based activities and games to overcome negative thoughts, anxiety, and everyday stress. So that's one that I'll be checking out soon. Now for some podcasts. So I don't know if you've all heard of the Happiness Lab. It's a podcast by Laurie Santos, who is a professor in psychology at Yale, and she created a course which was called the hardest class at Yale, which she pretty much was talking about the science behind well-being. And so it wasn't considered the hardest necessarily academic, like sitting down and very challenging coursework. It was more the hardest because of the way that these are simple concepts for us to understand, but applying them in our everyday life can be kind of challenging. And so she actually has the course up for free on Coursera. I think it's about an 8 to 10 week course, but there's also a podcast called the Happiness Lab where they talk about everything that's talked about in her course. Other ones, so Unlocking Us is by Brene Brown. She has a bunch of TED Talks and a bunch of books about and connecting with others and being our true selves. And so this is a podcast about media and how it reflects universal human experiences, from the bravest moments to the most heartbroken. Then Sad Boys, which is something I came across recently. And so it's a comedic podcast by two guys, and they talk about different feelings they have surrounding things. They talk about self-esteem, masculinity, adulthood. So that one's a cool one to check out. Also, Code Switch, which is it was quoted as a fearless conversation about race, and so it was highly recommended as well. Some movies.
And so
some of these.
I was going to add, so like an idea could be that you have your club maybe commit to listening to a particular podcast, and then you hold a meeting with a discussion based on what you listened to, or for example watched. You could do a viewing party of one of these movies and a discussion question afterwards. So those are just a couple ideas on how you could utilize some of these resources to engage with your club.
Mm-hmm. And some movies out here, you can check out our website or Google these if you would like. Also, these can be a viewing if you'd like to do that with your club, or also watch it and then talk about it after. And so our website on our resource page has more books, yoga, coping skills, mindfulness. So feel free to check that out on our resource page, which was newly updated. This is also a great time to either revamp your social media or create one. And so I just provided 2 examples of what our club's social media looks like. There's also different accounts to follow, and follow other schools too, so you can share your content with each other. Also connecting through movement. So maybe some of you were at our last meeting, our last wellness week meeting, last Wednesday. And so with Alyssa, we talked about different ways with creating movement, such as the interlacing our fingers tightly and then pulling them apart to kind of feel like almost there is like a hug, like you're giving yourself a hug, standing up and reaching out so we fill more of a space than just seeing our head floating on a screen. So moving, dancing around, that's a great way to connect virtually. Also connecting through storytelling. So this is something that we've included on our virtual engagement guide. So I really recommend that you all check out the new activities, specifically the connecting through COVID. So 7 songs is actually an idea from the podcast I mentioned previously, but it's the idea of having a set meeting time every week. The speaker did it over a meal with her friends. And each week they alternate between one person who chooses 7 songs that describe or they represent their life. So maybe times during their life or struggles or really great things that happen, fond childhood memories. And so that person has the hour, the half hour, the stage to talk about their 7 songs and share it with their people. And then the next week it's someone else. And you could do that with books or poems or movies or whatever you please. Other ideas, also these can be found in a virtual engagement guide. There's a plugin called Scener, which you can watch Netflix with your friends. You could do a recipe exchange. There's a bunch of online games, either if you have the game physically with you and play it with other people of the same game, or play an online version. And then we encourage you all to have a closing ritual in your meeting to wrap things up, to center oneself. Maybe that could be with mindfulness, maybe it could be with sharing something that you're looking forward to in the week. And so our closing ritual for today will be sharing one word that describes your experience of this meeting or how we're feeling now. So feel free to either say it out loud or drop it in the chat box. Just one word to describe how you're feeling.
I feel excited.
We have optimistic,
inspired,
and we give you permission to also, if you feel any negative emotions, if all of this information was a lot, that's fine. You could say overwhelmed. Jada, I like that. Informed. Thoughtful. That was almost everyone. Grateful. Overwhelmed. I've been feeling that a lot of these days.
Great. Well, thank you for sharing with all of us. This is a very simple activity. You could create your own closing ritual, something to just tie everyone back in together before sending them on their way. So do we have any questions?
Questions, concerns, anything specific you want to go back to. I know that when you receive the recap email, you'll see the guide, you'll see some PowerPoint templates, you'll see the new activities. And so if questions arise as you're reviewing those things, or if you have any issues with them, as always, you don't hesitate to reach out to Catherine and myself. Our club plans to meet with their sponsor this Friday to plan for upcoming virtual club meetings. That's awesome. I'm glad to hear that. I know that Whitson Minds Matter held their first virtual meeting and it seemed to go really well, and students appreciate it, connecting with one another. And I think at the end of the day, if it's just a meeting to connect and catch up, that is great as well. And I think will mean a lot to students.
And feel free to share your experiences with holding these virtual meetings, and maybe there's something that we can add to our virtual engagement guide or offer more support on if there's something that you all encounter along the way. And so next week, we are super excited to launch our Pride campaign, which will be led by Emerson. So Emerson, would you like to say a few words about the Pride campaign?
Sure, yeah. So I've been working in conjunction with Laura Beth and Lauren and Catherine to create a virtual campaign that focuses more on how to support and bring awareness towards the LGBTQ+ community. And this will focus on terms, it'll focus on resources, it'll focus on activities, and then it'll be disseminated on May 18th as part of a larger virtual campaign. And it'll include some of my personal explanations and also some discussions about what this can offer to clubs, and then also what people in the meeting might think is missing and that can be added and incorporated in future installments of this. And I've really loved to work on this, and it's definitely part of my life that I bring into my schooling and my future career.
Thank you, Emerson, and thank you for all your hard work. And I'm really stoked to see this whole Pride campaign roll out next week. And so, as always, our resources are out here. We are here for you. So stay connected, and if ever something comes up with a virtual engagement or other things, feel free to shoot us an email. We will be having office hours at the same time next week with the Pride campaign, and Emerson will be leading us in that. And that's all for today.
Well, we will stay on because we're am I on mute? No. For any questions, it doesn't have to be related to this until 4 o'clock. That's what these office hours are for. And if for some reason you feel like you need private help about a specific topic or support, you can contact us so we can set up a private office hours as well.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks for joining.
Welcome.